So today I have two very special guests on the channel, two of my good friends and two people that I learn a lot from when it comes to ads and performance creative. Today I'm joined by Lucas of Hammy Media and Sawdust, and for you, or just Sawdust?
Yeah.
All of them. And Ollie from For You and Sawdust. Guys, welcome to the channel. I am so pumped to have you guys on.
Thanks for having us on. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a better intro than ours.
Way better.
You think? So yeah, context that we should mention. We did actually put out a podcast not too long ago on D2C Diaries, which is your guys' podcast, which by the way is a very underrated podcast. If you enjoyed the content on this channel, then it's very likely that you enjoyed the stuff they talk about on D2C Diaries. So we did an episode that went out about a week ago.
If everything goes to plan,
everything goes to plan. So go and watch that. That is not the same as this one. This is a completely different podcast. We've got a different set of topics we want to discuss. So go and watch that first if you have not already. Guys, I feel like we have like a 4-5 hour conversation and just jam on creative. There are so many things I want to cover with you guys. But just to start off, I want to know what you guys are seeing. What at the moment are you seeing that is working in ad accounts for the brands that you work with?
Do you want to jump in with a few first?
I can go top level, yeah.
Go on.
And you'll probably, I might steal some of yours. That's the worry. I think a greater emphasis on upper funnel, a greater emphasis on problem aware, unaware, people shifting further up the awareness phases to generate net new reach. I think negatively seeing a lot of brands over-index on volume, execution, not going back to the drawing board enough, not doing enough strategy, not doing enough research, and therefore hitting plateaus and peaks. And I think that's those two things, like a focus on upper funnel awareness phases and a focus on obsessing around finding new pockets, new angles, new personas through research, and then translating that to great execution is what's separating those brands that are just scaling and not hitting those plateaus, and just volume is not a challenge. And then I'll let Lucas jump in with maybe some of the more like tactical.
Yeah, I think there's like loads of just, and again, it's like what we spoke about on the other pod. This isn't necessarily like a blanket rule of this will work for every single brand. I think it's, the nuances of the brand, that research stage is really, really important as part of this process. But some vehicles that I guess I'm seeing work right now, I know just the first one that it's not necessarily one vehicle, but that TikTok shop style of creative, we're just seeing absolutely rip. There's obviously different types of TikTok shop ads, but it's literally one of the most underrated ways to drive inspiration for your ads. These TikTok shop creators, as we've said, and I know you speak a lot about on Twitter, they're just like so incentivized, obviously through commission, and as a result, they just understand attention deeply and how to retain attention. I think like the one type of, I guess, framework that we've pulled from TikTok shop that is working really well that I see across a lot of TikTok shop ads is like the investigation arc. So it's almost using an expert as the weight or a video as the weight. So I watched this podcast the other day where this guy said this, and then it shows the screen of the person on the podcast. Now, obviously, if you're running this on as an ad on Meta, you can't just like be filming an expert saying that. It could be endorsing the product, but the way around that, what we do is like if we're filming high prod podcasts, we will then recycle those high prod podcast clips into that TikTok shop style, where then if we have a best performing podcast ad, we will then take that hook, put it on screen, and then have the creator say, I saw this video the other day of this expert saying this, and then it will like show them filming the screen. And the arc is essentially them going on the journey of self-discovery. So they hear someone talking about a potential solution, and then they will go on the journey of like self-discovery to find that. So then I saw this study that said X, and then they find the product, they tease the solution. And then the key thing as part of it that works really well at driving CTR is actually bringing in social proof, or like a soft CTA earlier in the video. So when they find the solution before they go into like the after state, almost saying there's no wonder they have 1 million customers when it works this well, and then they go into it, which helps drive CTR. I think another type that's working really well as part of that is more just like a format, but like POV UGC. So we're just seeing it rip. I think, literally just, you can buy them for £10 on Amazon. These little like neck tripod things that you just put around your neck, and it's like first person shooter style. And most of the time it's just simple, product demos, or like mixing the drink into whatever, or like holding the product in front of them. But the motion and, because they're constantly moving around, it's like really engaging. And those ads, I've never seen such high hold rate on them because of that. And they do really well.
They're so low effort as well, so low cost. If you're trying to do them, if you're trying to think internally, like how can you make more assets without having to pay for more creators?
Yeah.
Like,
what was that like neck tripod thing that you said?
I mean, tripod is definitely not the right word, because a tripod means it's got 3 legs, and it's like essentially just like, we can put it down below if you need.
It's like a holster and you attach the camera. I remember
It's like a necklace.
Ray-Bans. Meta Ray-Bans.
Oh, you could do that.
Oh yeah, like let's just ask our creators to just buy Meta Ray-Bans.
I love the Ray-Bans so much. I wear them all
I've
the
not
time.
tried them. Interesting.
Really? I think I might have bought them today. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't.
You can find that holster. I sent it to you on TikTok Shop. I think that's what we found it.
Yeah.
Just some guy was just selling them through TikTok Shop, doing videos and like throwing things around. I was like, that's really cool. Let's try it in an ad.
Yeah.
Holly will put his TikTok Shop link.
Yeah.
Careful though, because he gets commission off that.
There is so much. I mean, we spoke about it earlier. There's so much you can learn from TikTok Shop creators. I learn a lot from TikTok Shop creators, and I actually follow quite a lot of comedians on TikTok. I just think that, like, as we've spoken about, model selection is such an underrated part of the creative process, and it's really difficult to find people who can speak authentically on your product or on your problem. So, I mean, I wish I had a better technical term for this, but like, I look for people who can yap, like just people who can get on camera and they can tell a story about whatever that story is, and I believe them. I'm like, oh, I just watched 2 minutes of this, and I didn't even know that 2 minutes had gone past. And like, there is definitely something to be said for not getting caught up too much in that and forgetting to sell the product. But like, there is so much you can learn, because I feel like so much UGC is just like, I feel like I've got a lot of energy. I feel so much better. This has changed my life. And it's like, that's just the antithesis of what we actually want to go and create. So much from TikTok creators in terms of like how they are holding their phone, the lighting they're using, and all those kind of things, but also just their ability to get on and talk about a problem or a transformation authentically, because as you said, they're literally incentivized to do it. They don't make money if they don't do it in an engaging way.
Yeah, 100%. I think, they're just one thing they're really good at, and we talk to our team about this a lot, is like when you're building a script, especially now, as Ollie said, the ads that are working are much longer, and we're setting up the problem, we're educating around the problem or even the solution before we introduce the product. Most of our best performers now, like on average, don't introduce the solution for 20, 30 seconds. But what they're really good at is re-hooking you in every 5 to 10 seconds by doing something else slightly differently, whether that's changing the scenery or location, or tying in, delivering the message in a different way, like holding up pieces of paper with, stats on them, or showing a laptop screen. All of these different techniques are very intentional to hold people through until the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And this longer ads is also something that we've seen in our accounts this year as well. Like we've literally taken ads and stitched them together, and like made 4 or 5 minute ads that have been 3 of our top performers just back to back, and it's gone and crushed inside the ad account. Talk to me more about storytelling then, because this is a nice segue. Like, it's a very, I'm not going to say you've got it or you don't, because it definitely can be taught, but it's not an easy skill for someone to acquire.
Yeah.
You guys, know this better than anyone. Like, how do you go about training your team on becoming good storytellers? How do you take someone who is, a junior and turn them into a master storyteller?
Yeah, it's really difficult. Like, there's definitely no exact science. I think the short answer and the boring answer is just reps, like doing it more and more, obsessing over finding those creatives that have performed really well, that are slightly more longer form. What can we learn from that? How can we hypothesize around that? Building that into a framework in a database that we can come back to and tap into later. But I think like the key is just really drilling the fundamentals of storytelling. Like obviously, I'm sure we've all read the brand. I've forgotten the name of it now. It's be able to do a story brand or something like that.
Story brand framework.
Yeah, and it's like the story brand framework, which is like you have a protagonist who comes across a problem and then they're searching for the solution. They have a guide who will help them there, and etc. And that's, you know, in its simplest form. But I guess like what I always look at with our team is like, what are some of the things that take us out of the story? And I think one of them is like using sales jargon too often. So really leaning into how we can speak casually. So tapping into like audience research, places like Reddit. It's a great place to just go to look at someone just venting about a story or a problem that they have. It's like, how can we learn from the way that people are talking and applying that to the story we have? Because that's likely something that's quite relatable. I think as part of that, it's like with the jargon, how can you say things? I always say to my team, I think great storytelling in many ways is like telling a story in a way that a 5-year-old would understand it. So rather than saying it optimizes your microbiome, saying it's like a traffic light in your gut, it goes green to let the good stuff through and red to stop the bad stuff coming through, or whatever. And just almost like using metaphors and onomatopoeia. We have an ad that's ripping right now that is essentially just like the first version of the ad was talking about joint pain and it didn't work. The second version of the ad was like my knees used to go snap, crackle and pop like Rice Krispies. And again, just like that link to something that us as humans can better relate to really helps.
Yeah, speaking like a customer, not like a brand, I think that simplicity of message. I think that's what you look at. If you look at like speech writers and like, even if you take it out of a advertising context, like it's always that, like they say in America, like grade. I don't know what the grade is, but like simple language, relatable language. I think Sean Puri's really good at storytelling.
He's great.
He's got a few masterclasses on his channel of like how to tell stories, because I think it translates to even like business when you're speaking to your team. It's not, we're speaking very advertising context, but I think if you can just tell stories generally better internally, you can get more buy-in across, whether it's a product advertising or any kind of communication.
Yeah, I love that example of the snap crackle and pop. It's just I can visually depict that. I can clearly see inside my head what that looks like, and more importantly, what that feels like. It's great emotive language, and any emotive language often. Whoa, watch out there, buddy. Oftentimes those kind of analogies and those metaphors can be found, like your customers tell you them. If you do the digging, if you go through the ad comments, if you go through the customer reviews, or you can even prompt these inside of LLMs, you can dig out those really emotive stories that communicate what's like that pain point and that transformation to your customer better than any copywriter who's sitting behind a screen could ever do. And I love what you're saying, Ollie, like that your customers are your copywriters, and there's just so much gold, but it's just so many people are not willing to do the unsexy work when it comes to going through all those ad comments and going through all those customer reviews to find it.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is like going deeper than the surface level. I think a lot of ads aren't great at engaging people and aren't good at storytelling because they remain surface level to what the problem is on paper, right? So if it's a skincare product that helps with acne, they just talk about the spots and the acne, whereas actually that ties much more into like core human desires of like confidence, relationships, status. So it's like, rather than just talking about the surface level problem, like saying, oh, my acne got so bad, saying something like, I cancelled dinner because with my friends because I couldn't cover my spots. And then that opens a curiosity loop that you close at the end in the after state, where you say, now I go out without even wearing makeup, and I forget to even put makeup on. And it like perfectly closes that like human desire curiosity loop, and we're going much deeper than like the surface level problem.
Yeah. And I would say, as an extension of that, like one step further, is one prompt that I love using when we're going through reviews or comments is to get GPT to look for like insider phrases or jokes that our customers are using, so that we can pick out the like, if you know, you know, type language that they use. And then the idea being someone sees that on their feed and they look at our ad and they go, wait, how do they know about, I mean, the famous example that everyone else uses is the Ovi Fuba Killer most people have seen by this point. And like, if you're looking through the feed and you see the ad, you go, oh, wait, there's no way these guys are not one of us. Like, they must be one of us, because how do they know this if they're not in my demographic? So,
Yeah, it's like what do people relate to, and how can we create a story that they instantly think, I want to be taken on this journey? And, that's how we can tie in things like relationships. Someone opening with, I got an argument with my boyfriend the other day, that we're instantly hooked there because we want to know what the outcome of that is. So how can you like tie relatability that problems we've all gone through into that opening curiosity loop, essentially?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to go through on what's working now?
I think I'm just really bullish on like YouTube formats and translating them into ads on Meta. So like one big one that we've just had a top spender of is there's a YouTube series on Sports Bible called Agree to Disagree, and it's like two rival football fans.
I saw this in your office.
Yeah. Like a Arsenal fan and a Spurs fan, and it will literally just be a very polarizing statement made, and then they have to slide their glass to agree or disagree, and they essentially just battle it out. And it does an incredible job at just like, because again, it's almost like a layer above or a different style of podcast ad, right? But it's using like a really engaging format that is working well on YouTube and proving to work well on YouTube, and applying that to short form. And it works well because usually you can use existing objections that maybe are seen through the research phase, use that as the statement, and then you'll have two people battling between it. And I think with podcast ads, the thing that just works the best is conflict. So that is like the ultimate type of conflict. So it works really well.
Yeah, I love that as like somewhere to pull inspiration from, even though it's soccer, not football, because I have a predominantly American audience.
Trump is actually changing that, apparently.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently he's changing it to football. And,
that is incredible.
In prep for the World Cup.
Yeah, just in time for the World Cup. I love that. I mean, we always talk about the idea of using the organic feed as like the inspiration for the creative that you make, rather than your competitors' ad libraries who are just copying their competitors without any idea of what's working and what's not. But the organic feed doesn't just have to be TikTok or Instagram. Like, taking inspiration from channels like Jubilee, like these media companies who go and produce these, like the one, the Agree or Disagree, like the red button. I'm sure you've seen it, the dating one. Yeah. Like there's tons of them on there.
Yeah, like Sidemen are good to look at.
Yeah,
Mr. Beast. Obviously you can't do it on that scale, but like thinking, how can you use that? Like the last to leave the circle. How could you apply that to your brand in a way that's like entertaining?
Yeah. We actually had this is so stupid and really not relevant to the YouTube video, but like we had like a brainstorm on what content I could make for YouTube. And one of our strategists suggested like last creative strategist to leave the circle wins $1,000. I'm like, that, I don't know if that's going to bring in our type of audience, but I like the way you're thinking.
I spoke to someone, we haven't actually tested this on, maybe I sent it to the team the other day, but I spoke to someone who was doing a lot in like SaaS and lead gen, who was literally reproducing Mr. Beast's thumbnails as statics, just because obviously they test that thumbnail so much before they settle on one. They were reproducing the exact layout with the product and with someone from the team, or a couple of people from the team, and a headline pushing the USPs. That was doing really well for them. It was a top performer.
Really? That is fascinating.
I also think just like one, it's kind of like how can you apply old formats, like the classic frameworks that we all started creative strategy with, like the us versus thems, the 3 reasons why. How can you like take that and apply it to something else? So one thing that's working really well for us right now is taking the old us versus them format, but going but then filming directly in a supermarket. So we've had this work now across quite a few accounts where someone will literally be in a supermarket holding competitor products, blur them out, and just talking about why these products are bad before we bring in the better solution. So we're essentially just comparing failed solutions versus their solution. And I'm just seeing like public settings working really well for this stuff, and it kind of feeds into that idea of raw ads, the ugly ad in many ways.
Yeah, also creating ads that you're creating an ad that someone would watch that and go, oh yeah, this doesn't look like the traditional UGC, like shot in a kitchen or shot in a bedroom behind a tripod. It's like, oh, I usually see on my feed people in a store or people out in public, because if you're recording an ad, you usually wouldn't do it in front of a load of people. So like just creating ads that don't feel like ads. Another example of this is we sometimes try and do ads that have multiple people reacting to something at the same time. And it's like trying to create that thought in someone's head that's like, there's no way they would have done this for an ad.
Yeah.
Like, this must be an organic piece of content. There's no way this is an ad.
There's an amazing example of that of the last 2 weeks from Brez. Where they did the customer phone call. I think they got it to 100k a day behind one concept.
No way.
They put it on. Aaron put it on Twitter.
Oh, I need to check that.
Just they just rang a customer and just like ask it, like the amazing ad, so simple again, so authentic, so raw.
That format's ripping as well.
Yeah,
that, like calling customers and just split screen B-roll on the top. But yeah,
a couple of I think that's a nice segue into like anything that's like founder related, BTS, employee. I think that format's working incredibly well. And then I think taking it one step further is partnership ads, like taking the concepts. We're doing all of these formats, then let's layer in different identities to deliver the formats through and pair those together in a really like clever, strategic way.
Yeah.
And Meta have told us that they're preferring it in the algorithm, and they're funding tests, etc. right now. So it's a good signal.
Yeah. Everyone's talking about partnership ads at the moment. Do you guys have any tips for people who maybe have not tried running them yet on how best to approach them?
I think you can start really simply. Like, I think you can start with like founder. Like everybody I think could do founder ads.
And they don't need a presence either.
No.
Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I've heard a bit more like grey hat, like people just literally making new identities.
Yeah.
And just not even like no following, and just running them through new identities and finding that it helps get in front of new pockets of audience just by running it through a different Instagram account. Then I think you could I think experts is another amazing vehicle if you can find nutritionists, if you're in a category that leans into that and you can pair it with the right asset. And then obviously you've got like creators, then you've got more like bigger influencers. That's a really good hack if you can get like working with like slightly larger influencers with an audience is a really good way to buy incremental reach. Like if you're struggling with that and you can pair it with the right assets.
We just did an audit for a big brand, and like all of their top spenders are literally just whitelisted ads with pretty big celebrities.
Yeah.
You can't get anything else close.
Yeah. Do you guys do much with like, creating publication pages, like, popcorn lovers?
We don't, but I think that's another good idea.
Yeah.
We think it's something we've spoken about doing. We just haven't actually like resourced behind it. But I think that's something I've seen quite a few examples of that. From,
Yeah,
like, authority pages.
We do quite a bit of that. And like, again, you can go and like set up a website on Lovable to actually like send traffic to it. But like honestly, just to MVP it, you can just set up the Instagram pages.
Yeah.
Like if you're sending popcorn, like popcorn lovers, or like Barry loves popcorn, or just something like that. And just run the ads through there. And we've got quite a few of those that are working.
I think just honestly, I think the lowest hanging fruit just is always going to be founder ads. Not always necessarily, but just it's probably the type of ad that just has consistently popped over the last 2 years and that we get the highest hit rate from. And I think if you don't have a founder that wants to get in front of camera, one way that we've started doing it that works really well is a creator literally just talking, green screened over shots of the brand, the founder, BTS, talking through the journey of the founder to like them and the motivation of them building the brand and the product. And it feels very organic. And it's a great example again of like leaning into organic as a tool of inspiration. So yeah.
Love it. I'm sure we could spend the whole time going through things that are working and what's happening at accounts right now. But I think we should actually do a separate, like a quarterly or like, a couple times a year, jump on and do that as its own episode. I do want to go through a few other things with you guys while I've got you here. The creative that I see from you guys is some of the most creative ads that I see on my timeline. And I just wonder, where do you go to come up with new ideas? If you or your teams are in a creative route for a client and you're like, we feel like we've tried a lot of things and we're not sure where to go next, like, where do you go to find inspiration?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's lots of different places. I think it like has to be omni-channel. I think, as we said, TikTok Shop is a massive one. Like, I think people just need to live and breathe TikTok Shop as a vehicle for inspiration. I think we're very, very bullish on we've operationalized this process recently, where if we see top spenders on TikTok Shop or most viewed videos on social that link to the keyword, we will literally download. We've got a flow that it will download the video, it will put it into Google AI Studios, create a framework, and then put it into a database. So we've just got this like ongoing pool of inspiration from creative we know has performed either organically or through paid. So that's a big one. I think another one that we have is like, we actually have started incentivizing our team to come with big swing ideas. So we've got a channel called Ads That Slay.
Okay, we have a channel. It's not as zestily named, but it's
and it's like the little emoji, like the
I love that. It's so cool.
Adcrate
team are definitely going to message me and say, "Can we change ours to Ads Slay?"
So essentially, it's like a form in the Slack, and anyone can set this up, and you essentially put the link of the inspiration in there, and then and the reason why, how you think we could apply it, and then it just populates into a database.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great, because it's like a constant breeding ground for like new ideas, that if people are struggling, they can go directly into that.
Mm-hmm.
And we incentivize the person that contributes the most to that every month. Will get kudos. Have you heard of kudos? Like it's like through this thing called Matter.
It's like
we actually use it as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if we used it because of you. I think you might have put me onto it.
Right. Yeah. No, it's great though.
Yeah.
So we'll do like 100 kudo giveaway for most inspiration shared in a month. As I said, TikTok organic, YouTube formats is a big one, and then Reddit as well. Like, I just think Reddit is a great place to like uncover new angles and new stories.
I think you said on our other episode, like, hoarding great ads. I think that's a really good, like, just a really good mantra to have, both long term and short term, when looking at like what's going to set you up for success. I think previously, like looking backwards, put too much emphasis on like competitors within a market, but I think now it's like looking beyond your category, looking beyond your market, whether that's even beyond D2C for inspiration from tech, SaaS, or best organic channels, best organic creators on any platform, and pulling that into consumer instead. I feel like it's far more effective than just going through a lot of competitor libraries in the same vertical.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm so bullish on this idea for creative strategists of just collecting as many different. Even if you work at a brand and it's a beauty brand, like, you should not just be collecting beauty inspiration. You should be looking at collecting as many different ads as possible, because the amount of times, I mean, we've said it before, like the amount of times that we've taken something that's worked in one industry, a completely different industry to our client, and gone, oh, I can see, like, if we took the same framework and like applied the context of this industry, what about if we try this? And it goes and works again. So like, there are so many learnings that you can take from just absorbing as many top performing ads as possible.
So I think that's like externally. Then I think it's also good to be like introspective for a brand. Like, what makes the brand unique, and how can you change that into like creative ideas? Like, do they have a really passionate team? Do they have a specific facility? Do they have a specific manufacturing process? Does the product have this, like you were mentioning on our episode, like very visual aspect to it that makes something easier for them to do than that others aren't able to replicate? I think that's also a really interesting process and way to think about coming up with new ideas as well.
Yeah, I think that's just on what you were saying, like, it's you just see it too often, don't you? It's like competitors, they just like rip each other. They're just, oh, they've got this idea, I'm going to do that. They've got this idea, I'm going to do that. And like, it's just like a revolving door. So like looking into different markets, I think is so important.
Yeah. And just to be clear, like what we're not saying here is like, don't never look at your competitors and see what they're doing in their ad libraries, but also just understand that your competitors are copying their competitors are copying their competitors, and none of you know what's performing, what's not. And like, odds are 85-90% of it is not performing. So like, what are you doing trying to copy them all?
I think when you're looking at competitors, it's like less on an individual asset level. It's like pattern recognition, like that's more important. Like what are the commonalities across all of their top performers that gives you a starting point for ideas, rather than just ripping an ad. Or how do you take one of their ads and like, if it's a level 5, how do you make it like a 10? How do you take the framework that they maybe used and just innovate on it, take it to the next level?
Yeah. And then kind of the extension of that is looking at what people on Twitter or LinkedIn are doing. Which, sometimes we've taken ideas from LinkedIn and go, oh, this could work for this client. But again, like you got to be super careful because, barely anyone shares metrics of what's performing and what's not. And like, having been on the other side of it, a lot of the stuff that gets shared on these platforms is not actually performing.
Yeah.
And we have a saying internally, and I've said that like loads of times today. We do have a lot of sayings internally, but one of them is like, there's an inverse correlation between how many likes something gets on Twitter versus like how it's actually performing in the ad account, because it's just marketers loving other marketers' ads, but like we are not the consumers of those ads.
100%.
Yeah, I agree, because it is just like it's just a vacuum, isn't it? It's an echo chamber, Twitter.
Yeah, so take it with a pinch of salt. I want to ask you guys about something different now. I will ask the question and then I'll give you the context. I want to hear about your approach to briefing, and how you go about working with creators, because I see it as like a spectrum of how much direction you would give a creator. Do you give them a complete full script to work with where you say you've got to execute this exactly, or do you, on the other side of the spectrum, do you give them complete freedom where you say go and do your own thing? Where do you guys lie on that spectrum?
I think for me, there's no blanket rule. There's no right or wrong. I think we've tried both. I think we've seen more success being very specific about the scripts that need to be followed. But the caveat to that is we make very clear to our creators, as long as the framework is exactly the same as what's provided, if there's certain elements of language that don't feel authentic to you, feel free to change them. Because again, that's how you're going to get that, as authentic a performance or, whatever is possible. So I think I definitely lean more into to slightly more scripted. Mm-hmm. However, we do work with some creators that we've worked with for years and like are just so good and just get it, mm-hmm. where we can give them less direction than needed. But I think it's something that I'm looking more and more into, and it's kind of like that incentivizing through TikTok shop piece, incentivizing creators through percentage of spend in these more raw story formats where they're sat talking to the camera about a problem, like they're sat in their car or they're just demoing a product in the kitchen. How can we work with them to actually bring in raw, real stories that could apply, I guess, to the character arc that we're trying to take through that ad?
Yeah. The reason I asked that question, and I agree with your perspective, the reason I asked that question is because sometimes I get consulting calls booked in with me, and sometimes they are agency owners who talk about their creative processes. And I do think, on the brand side, but specifically on the agency side, we do have a tendency to try and over-systemize creative. And it is a lot more operationally simple if I can just say every single creator gets the exact same brief, it's the exact same ad framework.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to put out tons more volume than you, who is adjusting for every creator, and some creators you do this for and some creators you do that for. But like, you can't over systemize creative. If you do that at scale, all your ads end up coming out the same, even if they're different angles or different scripts. So like, what I like to say to our team is pretty much the same as what you said. Like, I don't care if you fully script this or if you don't put anything. I don't care if you don't use any of our templates. Just write it on a blank document if you have to. Whatever you feel most clearly gets the vision that you have in your head across to the person on the other side of that brief. Like, do it. Whether that's fully scripted or whether that's complete freedom, which by the way will change for like different industries and different creators. I think the bottom 90% of creators are generally better off with a script, and the top 10% are actually generally better off without a script.
Agreed.
And that's also going to change for industries. You know, as we were saying earlier, like supplements is very difficult to riff because you're going to say something that you're not meant to say, or you're just going to end up saying, this gave me so much energy. Whereas like, you know, if you're trying a food, then you probably don't want it to be fully scripted. So, you know, I asked that for that reason. I just think a mistake that a lot of strategists make is trying to fit every single brief that they produce into a template or a system that can be scaled up across a lot of creative.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely a line, and it can definitely quite easily become rigid and over operationalized in a way that doesn't allow you to scale volume. But as you say, as long as I think the key things that obviously you just for me that are important are hooks, because I just think a lot of creators just like don't understand hooks, and there's a lot of data that comes from the direction in giving hooks, because we do loads of hook variations anyway in our concept, so we can drive volume through that. Angle is key, and some form of loose framework if that's necessary.
There's definitely levels to it though, creator wise. It comes back to what you said earlier about storytelling. Like some creators are just better storytellers. We've got like Liam Cass or like someone like that, to give someone to name someone who's like been doing it for a couple of years, and you can give him a product and a few USPs and he'll just come up with things that fit his demographic and the angle that we're looking to go after without any more direction.
Yeah, he does some fucking crazy stuff. Like, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah.
Right.
Go for it.
I'm done anyway. So, but he'll put like, and this is what kind of to your point, don't over direct what the creator does, because he just like came up with, he has his loose framework, the backbone, but then he adds layers into it. So he would do these things where he would be in the bathroom and would put like a 6-pack of eggs just on the shelf behind him, just because he knew it would drive. It's like those little, well, it's literally an Easter egg, but like would drive people to comment on the ad, which is then going to drive impressions.
Yeah, he's a student of the organic feed.
Yeah, exactly.
So much better understanding, but at the same time, that's like the top 10%, right? That's the cream of the crop in terms of people to work with. So I do think you need to provide more direction on an average level than that.
Do you have any, like, I guess it's difficult, but do you have any data to suggest which works better for you, giving more freedom or more direction?
No, I probably should do. It's just all anecdotal, but I think it's industry and creator are like what dictates how much direction I would give on a creative. Like, I would almost never give freedom for a supplement, and I would almost never give a full script for like a food brand. And then like again, like I said, like top percentage of creators, like we have some creators where we just say, we put on a monthly retainer and say, hey, here's the value props of the product, we're gonna let you go crazy, and if they're good enough, you know, they'll make better ads than we could have scripted. But the reality is most creators are awful, and they need direction. So I think those are the two factors that I consider. But like the main point being that I just say to the strategy team, I don't care whether you fully script it or whether you give freedom. Just do the thing that you think gives the best chance of getting what you have in your head out into a final like completed ad.
Yeah.
Guys, we've actually got 45 minutes without talking about AI. Which
that's wild.
I think is a record on my channel, if I'm being honest. But I am very curious to hear how you guys use AI at your companies. And the reason I ask is because, you know, everyone's overwhelmed with how many releases, products, and options there are nowadays. You log into Twitter every day and there's a new update or there's something new that you have to try. What is the tech stack that you guys use? What are the tools that you use that actually has created real business value in AI?
I'm going to speak, I'll let Lucas speak more in detail around creative, I think like we've been through a bit of a journey with AI internally of like, I think thinking a bit of on like a business level, on a team level, how to get like adoption across your team, I think you've really got to start there, because I think it's easy to assume that everybody in a business is really utilizing it at scale, has adopted it, whereas I think there's often more pessimism than you think, and especially in a creative business when you first start on this journey. So we did a lot around education, understanding fundamentals, understanding limitations. Started a lot with the basic tools like GPT, obviously ages ago, note takers, all of this, and then we've kind of got to a point where I think AI usage across our business, which is like 60 plus people, is at 100% like daily. And then we've been able to start thinking more on like a workflow level in some of the things that we've been implementing more recently across creative and other departments.
Yeah, I think one thing that I'd recommend to any business owner that, again, obviously if this is a small team, it should just be the whole team. But one thing we did in the last couple of months that just has really helped with that adoption is having an AI committee in the business. So usually that is like a department head or essentially the people that are just really bullish on AI that come together once a week, spit ideas, spit what they're doing, some that are more formalized sessions of things, and then taking away and then going and practicing those things with almost homework to come back to the next week, and then feeding that and becoming almost the thought leader within their department that rolls that out. So I'd definitely recommend doing something like that, and just to stay as close to it as possible, because obviously it's changing and moving so quickly that it's important that that is built into the day-to-day.
On a practical like tool level, what are you using in the creative process?
So we use VO3. We've, again, early days with VO3. I think we spoke about on our podcast with you, just we haven't quite yet seen top spenders coming through with 100% VO3 made creative yet. What we are really leaning into there, which I know you are as well, is like hook variations. So one thing that we'll do as part of that is creatives that are performing well, especially like if we see a creative that has loads of spend and a high TSR, what can we learn from that hook and just take it to the extreme with multiple variations? So we do that, we use VO3 for that, and also for B-roll. So we lean into like B-roll to visualize metaphors and things, split screen, almost like that TikTok organic, satisfying, those satisfying videos where you've got someone just talking on the bottom and then on the top it's like something just squeezing gummy bears and them just like flying out the side or something. So we're playing with VO3 a lot. GPT, so just like we just got obviously trained bots for every brand that we work with. We've got script writing bots that are just trained with loads of knowledge on how to be a great script writer. We obviously have bots, just loads of different bots, like a CFO bot, biz dev, etc., which I'm sure a lot of people do. Our biggest breakthrough recently is we now have built into our onboarding funnels with a brand that we work with. They essentially complete the onboarding form with all of the inputs that we need, and it triggers an N8N workflow, which not only sets up onboarding calls, Slack, gets everyone in the Slack channels, but then it takes all of the information and does a research phase, like a first draft AI research phase. So it will scrape Reddit, it will do audience research, competitor research, organic research. It will compile everything into like a 5-page document, and then it will send it to the creative strategist. So that becomes almost the foundations of then how they can continue to drive research after that point. Because it's not perfect, and that's a starting point, but it's a great starting point.
Yeah, I think we've tried to go like deep rather than wide on tool usage, because I think that's people just get stuck in paralysis, like of just there's so many options. So I think we've tried to think through first principles from like context through like business case. How does it translate to like a P&L impact for us and an outcome impact for the client? And almost moved probably a little bit slower on actual implementation, but with that in mind. So like VO3, really deep process there. Lucas really proved out the concept before rolling it out across the team. The bots, the GPT, like we've used more tools than that, but we've tried to really think about process and rollout with intention.
I think, literally GPT, Claude for script writing, VO3, Google AI Studio, I'm so bullish on. I fucking love it.
It's so good.
It's just great for like hypothesizing, creative, building frameworks. Like, honestly, it's kind of what you were saying, like obsessing over top spenders. So any top spender that we get, it will go into Google AI Studios, it will build a framework out of it. It will hypothesize why it works and then put it into a Notion database.
Is that set up with an NAN?
For the most part, it's set up. It's just the first input that is still manual. So we're still finalizing the full end-to-end automation. So it's not 100% there yet, but there's one part of the process that's manual. The rest is automated at this stage.
Got it. I want to talk about the context that you are giving your bots on Claude or GPT, because I still think this is a massive pain point for a lot of people when they're script writing. You know, they'll say the AI outputs aren't good enough, or they just can't get what they want in terms of headlines or scripts. So how are you training, like with what documents and context are you putting into these bots such that they will help you write better scripts or come up with better headlines?
Yeah, so we've got like one document that, so I've broken it into two context documents. One that's like top of funnel, one that's mid to bottom of funnel. So unaware and problem aware, script writing context bot, which essentially is just all of the insights that we know about what makes great storytelling, you know, kind of some of the stuff that I was going through at the start with examples, and just as much context as possible on that. Then there's the same for solution, product, and most aware when you're going into the bottom of funnel. Because I think just an insight that I've learned about context on GPT is if you gave ChatGPT a 50-page document, it would actually not do a very good job at scraping all of that information, because it isn't able to. It's kind of like context windows it's like a piece of paper, right? If you're exceeding that piece of paper, it actually does a worse job at picking up some of that context. So it's like, how can you pull that in a way that is formulaic but short and sweet, and we're not confusing the context.
Yeah, and a mistake that I see a lot of people making is that just because you don't hit the context window, it doesn't mean that means that GPT can process everything. So on Claude, in the project knowledge, it says like, 2% of context used. So I think people think that, oh, I could just go up to 100%. But like, I have split tested like different levels of context, and like, I just find that when I get to sometimes even 2, 3, 4%, that like it just starts to forget things. And it's not that the context window has been exceeded, but just the same way that like even if me or you could process a 10-page document, like what's going to be easier for me or you to understand exactly, what is on the page and what is to be prioritized if there's 10 different pages that I have to look through. So you do want your context to have everything that it needs and nothing that it doesn't. You have to be really selective about like cutting out the fluff in these context documents, because anything that contradicts itself or anything that's in there that doesn't need to be is just going to confuse the model.
I completely agree. I think it's the most underspoken about thing. And what's the that podcast that
the HubSpot founder, I can't remember. Again, my first million, we've mentioned him a lot.
Dharmesh, that's it. Yeah, he talks a lot about this, and what he was saying is what you have to do, and what we're looking into now is like, you essentially need a data warehouse that is built with agents that essentially when you put the prompt in, it's not pulling it from context within the LLM, it's going out into the data warehouse. Yep. So if you're talking about one thing, it will find the relevant documents of just that one thing. So the context is way more relevant, even though it's pulling it from a wider data pool.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like a kind of like, I actually haven't thought of that, but I really like that idea. A kind of scrappy solution that we have to that problem is we've just broken out our context documents into every specific task. So we have a context document on static headlines, everything we know about static headlines, winners for different industries, and the justification as to why we think there's a winner. And we have that for iterations, and we have a document for script writing, and we have a document for advertising to different different countries, different audiences, different ages. Like everything that we would want to know just basically getting that into a live wiki of 50 different documents, which, you know, someone listens to this might go, that sounds like it's a lot of context to try and build. And it is, but like, you're also talking about like something that's going to help you write way better ad scripts, come up with way better headlines. And like the difference between a Claude project that is trained on your brand context and the specific domain context of here's everything I know how to write headlines versus just using normal Claude for Opus is, you know, it's night and day.
100%. I completely agree. And then like, yeah, the other thing on top of what you just said is we will have a context document per creative type. So high prod, UGC, static, broken into, again, top, middle, bottom of funnel, performance creative with just best performing scripts.
Yeah. And if you wanted to take it one step further, then you could actually segment them out by persona as well, which is what we do for some of them. So every strategist has, you know, them segmented out by, you know, types of ad, you know, is it a script, a type task, and then persona. And like, the extent to which you niche down depends on how much time you've got to commit to these. Like if you don't have the time, you can just make one overall document. Obviously, the outputs aren't going to be as good. But like the more niche and the more specific and relevant your context is to that task, the better the outputs are generally going to be. And by the way, like I think this is a great conversation to have because when people talk about like using AI in creative, I think everyone's quick to jump to the NAN workflows and like the sexy stuff that you see on Twitter. This, in my opinion, is the 80-20 of like the actual value that you can pull out of AI, at least today.
So yeah, it's getting modular and specialized with agents, with bots, and being as granular as possible. I also think it's the unique value that especially as an agency, like your unique way of giving, your unique way of approaching each step in that process is kind of your IP in a way as we move into this like really AI enabled service delivery world. It's like that is what makes you different as a service provider. Like,
yeah, I just think there's just so much style over substance right now in the space. Like that's why we're just really bullish on doing less better. And obviously there's still a decent sized tech stack there, but I know, you know, there's so many tools outside of that are popping up every single day that people just jump on instantly because it's like this almost FOMO idea.
Yeah.
And that just distracts you from actually just becoming really great at context engineering and prompt engineering.
Yeah. There is, at least not yet, there is not the infinite ads machine that you can click and it just gives you all of your ad creative. It's funny, I actually know a guy who posts a lot of you know, NAN and Gumloop workflows online. And like I was on a call with him and he literally said to me like that he knows that a lot of them are just like, you know, all smoke and they don't actually provide much tangible business value, but they do really well on Twitter. So, you know.
Yeah. I think it's also like there's a risk when you embark on a project like that that can take a lot of time and cost, and then something comes to market that makes it completely obsolete. Like we've got caught in that trap a couple of times. He's built a few research processes.
That's such a good point because Image Gen came out earlier this year, and I promise you I spent about 30 hours trying to come up with the perfect prompt for how to prompt any product in Image Gen. I came up with literally like a 10-page prompt, and I was so proud of it. And then like I could have just waited a month for the update. I would have been in 5 minutes been able to get anything better than any prompt that I'd spent, you know, hours and hours on before. So
that's why I think it's like, that's when I said at the start, it's like it's really important to start with the business case when you're thinking about where to spend time. It's like, look at the constraint in your process. Where do you need to free up people's time? What's the current bottleneck? That's where you should focus on building first. And then it's like building the fundamental building blocks that don't change over time, like that concept of build for the slope, not the intercept of where AI is now. It's like start with the context, start with obsession over process and documentation, because then as new tools advance, as new tools come to market, you can just plug them into that data warehouse, that context window, and still get the benefits without having to waste loads of money building.
Yeah.
Go
on.
Sorry, go on. Are you going to respond to that?
I was just going to say, like, to emphasize that, you know, we literally have, you know, strategists at Adcrate who have client slots like dedicated to building the context library. I think it's that important. So then whatever the tool is, we can just plug our like live wiki of everything that we believe to be true about whatever the specific task is, to improve the outputs we get from AI.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, it's just coming back to that thing of, you remember back the OG GPTers will know this, but when you used to have like you had to put apps, GPT apps, so you had like the web scraper app on ChatGPT to be able to actually scrape the web. I literally spent like 2 weeks building this massive SOP around like how we can use the web apps, and then it's like you didn't need them anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, funny.
So much cost and time just sunk into that project.
Yeah, I know. But like, yeah, I agree, Ollie. Like the defensible play is to focus on the stuff that we don't think is going to change, build the context library. Because as we say, like the only people who I know that make good ads with AI make good ads without AI, and like that comes from an understanding of creative strategy, and understanding of using that to create your context library.
Yeah.
So that's the now. What do you think happens in the future? How does the role of a creative strategist or even a creative team change over the next 12, 24 months?
Do you want me to start? I think like overall, I think the agency and the impact that someone can have is just going to continue to increase. Like the volume of output, the quality of output, and the creativity that someone's able to, like as tools develop, as these things develop, like all of that is going to increase, which I think is going to separate the very best people who embrace and learn and do a lot of what we just discussed and obsess around that. Like they're going to be able, their ability to drive impact is just going to multiply very quickly. I think there's a lot coming in the video generation space. Like we've got V1 and VO3. I can see how that quickly becomes like exponentially powerful for video generation if you're able to upload your own context to it, as it just becomes more refined. It's kind of scary what it can do now, considering it's such an early model. So I think those two things are going to be huge. And I just think output is going to multiply rapidly across like paid ads. I think the volume that we're putting into accounts on a monthly basis is just going to continue to ramp up so quickly.
Yeah, I think that it's almost like the cost per creative becomes commoditized in some form. But I think like at least in the next 12 months, I think what VO3 has allowed is it's going to expose those that really are truly creative and those that aren't. Because I think I actually went into VO3 being a creative at heart, like someone that, was at film school and everything like this, like against the idea of it, just because of just where I came from in that world of actually creating films. And I thought it would kill creativity. But then playing with it, I'm like, this does actually the opposite. This massively enhances creativity, because what it does is people that are truly creative but didn't have the means available to bring their vision to life now do. So I think it will allow those people to really shine through. I do see a world where naturally teams are going to get smaller, but I think that means that the creative strategist role as a whole is going to become even more important, because it becomes more of the orchestrator across multiple different things. You're going to have agents that are there supporting you in the org chart. You're going to have still roles that sit below you, or tools that you're using. But one thing that I think, at least in the short term, that it will 100% need is you still need someone with taste. You'll still need someone who understands strategy and storytelling deeply. And you'll still need someone that quality controls all of the outputs.
Do you think AI gets to the point where all creative is done with AI? Execution?
I don't personally. I think I do, probably in the next 10 years, but I do think it's dependent on legislation and what happens there. In my eyes, like, people are like one or the other, and we know pendulums always swing. So I do feel like it will create a inherent motivation for more raw, real content and you made a great point on our podcast about like it's like the cat and the mouse, like people trying to not look like AI. But I see a world, at least over the next few years, where they will quite happily work alongside one another in harmony, and they are just seen as different vehicles to deliver a message.
I don't think I think there'll always be like human-made creative, because I think there's like people enjoy telling stories and people enjoy producing. Like people go to take someone who's gone to film school for an example. Yes, there's a monetization goal through what we do, but there's also people who are in brands, who are in businesses, who just enjoy the act of telling a story and connecting people and putting that out into the world. So I think that's always going to continue. I think more and more paid creative that's a little bit more formulaic, a little bit more data led is probably going to, I do think it'll creep more towards AI generation over time, especially towards the bottom of funnel, especially towards the more direct response, the things that are a little bit more framework driven. But I think that upper funnel, unaware, problem aware, the things that are working really well right now, still feel like that's very emotive, very like trend based, very culturally relevant. Like these things that are even harder to replicate with a AI model will stand the test of time for a lot longer. Then it's hard to think past that time horizon, right?
I just think like a great analogy is like there was never shooting films in digital. It was all you shot with film. You shot with film stock. Most feature-length films are still shot with film, even though it's quicker and it's cheaper to shoot in digital.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I think we're still a long way away from it just completely replacing something. Because if using that logic, why has film not been fully replaced by digital? I know it's not exactly the same, but
taste again, I guess.
Ways. I wonder if it does get to the point where legislation gets brought in and, you know, your ads are labeled, this was made with AI.
We've spoken about this on the podcast. I'm of the belief that like the industry is due a bit of a correction on policy, right? Yeah. We started to see things creep in, but D2C marketing for 20 years has been the wild fucking west. Like you can get away with some pretty loose stuff, like very, very loose stuff. It's like, I think that will have to happen at some point, because I think there's like negative consequences of that not occurring for society.
Yeah, you see people's predictions every year. And everyone's like, this year's going to be the first big lawsuit. It's going to be the first big lawsuit. It's going to be the first big piece of legislation. And like we were saying, like that, if we're playing by the rule book, we should all have disclaimers on our UGC ads.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen, right?
And what do you think?
I really don't know. I do think at some point, if AI gets to the point that it genuinely can recreate an ugly ad, there's something that makes me feel uncomfortable if we're not disclosing that.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like, I mean, I guess you could build an AI that builds a detective as AI, but like, then it would be a game of cat and mouse between the legislators and the software creators to see how they can disguise it. I don't know.
It's essentially like revising or using AI to support you with your exams now, or your coursework at university. You know, it's that game now. It's like, how can you disguise that? Because they all are, let's be honest.
Yeah,
how can you disguise that you're using ChatGPT to help you with your dissertation?
You submit a dissertation, it says, sure, I'll give you a dissertation that you see those memes.
Double dashes.
Yeah, exactly. No, what I will say, I don't know. I think there will be, but if it got to the point where it's truly not detectable, I would feel uncomfortable if there wasn't some sort of way to know if this is an AI piece of creative or not.
I think they'll have to, even when you take it out of a advertising context, you take it to music, you take it to film, like authentication is going to become like a problem, like, or like an industry in itself, I imagine, in some way.
Yeah.
Like NFTs, like that whole utility comes back around, has much more utility in a world where you could take someone's likeness or someone's music or voice and just recreate a load of fake rap songs, as an example.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully, I think from a societal perspective, hopefully that does happen, but we'll see.
Yeah. Let's switch it up a bit. I want to talk about a problem that I've seen quite a lot recently in some client accounts. We've had some brands come to us and say, we're not necessarily looking for anything new. The problem that we've got right now is we've got 200 ads that have been made with this footage that we shot. And we want to make more creative out of this footage. We want to make this footage stretch further. Because I see a lot of brands are doing that. They're using the footage once, and if it doesn't perform, discard. But like, there are so many winning pieces of footage that I think have just been discarded because the way that you told this story, like that story in that specific ad, just wasn't right. How do you guys think about a problem like that, where you've got a brand that has a load of existing footage in ads, and you're tasked to try and create a load more ads out of the footage and make that footage stretch further?
We've just transitioned from Frame to Frame 4.0, which is really good. They've got like AI built into the platform now, so when you uploading content, it will like auto label it. It will read the video, the visuals, and transcribe it, and it will auto label it based on what it is when you give it the context. So if you're looking for hooks, B-roll, body, etc., etc. So that is incredibly useful in terms of like how we can like iterate at scale and create mashups and things like that. You can even just type in keywords and it will come up with creatives that say that keyword, or a piece of creative that says that within it. So I think that's a big thing. I'm still like really bullish on like AI voiceover content. So for example, like if you've got a load of footage of this, you know, that POV kind of content where someone's like walking around and you can see the hands, and that was done with a human voiceover, that creative. But if that's proven successful, why can't you take that and test 20 different frameworks over the top of that in terms of the voiceover itself, just using AI? So like AI driven mashups and taking existing best performers and applying AI, I think is something that works really well. I think also taking existing sound or visuals and applying it to a different format. So we spoke on the other podcast about taking a best performing UGC. So maybe it's a creator talking to camera, testimonial, taking that, making it sound like it's a WhatsApp voice note, putting the WhatsApp voice note on screen with then just B-roll behind it. So it's like, how can you become creative about taking elements of a video and applying it to a different vehicle?
Yeah, I think the organization of assets is a big one. I didn't actually know Frame did that. So do you guys use Frame for kind of asset organization and video review?
Yeah.
Really?
Both. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting, because we use Air for organization and then Frame for review, but I didn't know that Frame did that.
The reason we've been like wanting to transition to Air for the labeling reason, because Frame didn't do it, but then they teased that they're coming out with Frame 4.0 for a while, and they finally have.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It can do essentially all of it in one. So yeah, it's because that organization piece is key. Like if you're creating ads, you know, thinking of it in modular parts is also a great way how you can just, you know, 10x the volume by taking elements of that modular framework.
Yeah, Air is great for that, but also it's a little expensive. I don't know what their price. I mean, actually, someone sent it the other day. Like, they were ridiculous price, but we got a grandfather plan, so I may go and check out Frame to see if we can switch over, because we already do video reviews on there, and I kind of love it for that.
Nice.
What's one belief about creative that's changed in the last year?
I would say the biggest, most bullish one I have, I want to say one that we haven't spoken about, but it genuinely is that, because I just remember just hammering it down creative strategists' throats, like, we have to introduce the product solution in the first 5 seconds. I think that is the biggest change in belief, how, again, it's a great example of like the pendulum always swings. Maybe we'll go back to direct response, you know, who knows? It always swings back. So that longer setup where we're not introducing the solution for sometimes up to like 40 seconds is a big one. I think a personal belief, the second one is again, what I just said around creativity and AI used to think AI would kill creativity, but if anything now it only accelerates it. So yeah, probably 2 from my side.
I think I don't know if it's like necessarily changed, but it's just become abundantly clear how much diversity is so important, and it actually makes it so challenging as well in terms of creative operations. I think that's what's made it is becoming more challenging. Is like to really be able to continually scale Facebook, you need to be making such variety across all awareness phases, across so many different personas, across all and that is just complexity, right? And it's hard. Like, well, the brands that are doing it well are the ones that are winning and winning big. And I think it's still the single most important work stream in a D2C brand. Like, that can take you to wherever you want to get to in terms of growth if you just obsess around that. But not that many brands are doing it well, because I think it is so hard to do a volume.
I think as well, like the thing of volume versus strategic volume, which I know we speak about a lot.
So much.
Because there's just so many examples of, like, with Andromeda now, people think all you got to do is just drive volume and scale, and that's it. But like, there has to be a strategy behind that volume. I think you had a good example, didn't you?
It's the number one thing. I do a lot of like initial calls with the bigger brands that come through our pipeline, big 8-figure brands in the UK, like 50 million plus, and a lot of them will be making 500-600 ads a month at some cases. They'll have been doing the same volume for 6 months, and their spend won't have changed. The CAC might be going up, and it's because they're not going back to the start. They're not changing the strategy. I think strategies become even more important as execution becomes easier. Like, it's re-emphasized the need to obsess around research, obsess around the customer, obsess around the fundamentals, and then translate that into like a roadmap based on where you want to get to over the next 3 months, not just hitting volume for the sake of it.
Okay. Want to play a game?
Want to play a game?
Yeah. I've got a game of overrated versus underrated. So I've picked a bunch of different, just random things in ad creative, or some of them are not ad creative, and just tell me whether you think it's overrated or underrated. You don't have to explain it, or you can if you want. Overrated, underrated. I've got like 8 here, and then we'll wrap. Okay, start off. Using AI to write scripts.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Am I going to be the Gary V here? I'm going to say underrated.
Interesting. Okay.
We just spent like the episodes talking about Claude projects and how good they are.
No, sorry. So maybe I read the question slightly differently. In my eyes, I thought you were saying writing a script in ChatGPT and taking that script at face value.
Got it. Okay, using AI to aid.
Right.
Oh,
the writing
100%
process.
underrated.
Underrated.
Yeah.
Okay, it's about to flip.
They kill you.
Okay, fair enough. My bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Whitelisting.
Underrated.
Okay, are we going to just agree on all of these? Underrated, I would say. Making iterations on ads.
Doing it the right way, underrated. Doing it the wrong way, overrated. Tiny iterations, overrated. Changing formats, angles, underrated.
I'd say they're properly rated, to be fair.
I guess that was a better answer. I didn't know that was a choice.
That's good. That is a good point.
Because one thing I just see a lot is like strategists trying to reinvent the wheel or just be too clever with an iteration.
Yeah.
And think, okay, I'm going to iterate on the music. Or, it's like, look at what the big impact iterations are actually going to be and lean heavily into that. Like, there's too much focus on like iterating on things that are very secondary.
Yeah.
It's like hook into static, founder story into UGC, that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I think, if that's the context, then I'd say it's underrated, but I would say overrated. This is a massive generalization, but like, I think too much emphasis is put on iterations, because I think generally if an ad is going to work, it works the first time round, unless you make a huge change. So in the way that most strategists use them, I would say they're overrated.
What about though if you've got a top spender and you want to extend the shelf life of that ad? Because that's one thing I've seen it work really well with. Like, if you've got a top spender that is really dominating spend and maybe CTR is slightly below the benchmark.
Oh yeah, we'll iterate on it. I'm just saying, like, versus the, how it's perceived. Like,
Yeah,
I think
right,
everyone just
yeah.
iteration all the time, but like,
I think most people are iterating wrong. That's why.
yeah,
Yeah.
in that context, I would say overrated.
Yeah.
I wonder what this one's going to be. VO.
Underrated.
Overrated right now, I think. I love it, and
Yeah.
I think it's great, and it's going to be ridiculously, probably properly rated actually, because it's already so overrated. But I
Guy
think,
just sits on the
and I
fence.
think it's going to be really impactful. But
Yeah.
I do think right now, like, it isn't as powerful as creative that isn't produced with VO3.
Yeah.
Got you.
I said overrated, but with a massive caveat. Because overrated, because it's like the stuff that you see online, like the pretty stuff does take quite a while to get to. But overrated with the context that I'm telling all of our team to use it. Like, this is a tool that's worth getting good at, because I think this is where a lot of creative is made over the next couple of years.
Yeah. No one watching this podcast should listen to me about the very, very technicals of creative. These two are as you can see, these two are the experts.
Okay, next one. NAN.
Massively overrated.
Yeah, probably overrated.
Overrated. Why?
I think I bet there's so many people wasting hours and so much money building them, and they drive very little. Like, they can drive unlocks. They don't drive massive swings in business outcome. And half the time you build something that's obsolete in about 2 months' time.
Yeah, I think most of the time people are trying to just do something that's really the sexy stuff on an 8N that on Twitter looks really cool, like with one prompt creating a whole ad, as an example, but then the output is pretty terrible, when actually what you're probably better doing is looking at, okay, where's the biggest inefficiency in my business right now in terms of like things we're doing manually, and how can I use agents to optimize that so I have more time to focus on the creative.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I can't actually remember what I was going to say about NAN.
It's overrated.
I'd say overrated. I used to build a lot of Zapier workflows, and I really nerd out about it. And like I love workflow building. I think it's so fun. But what I will say about it is it's something that you can start and you can get lost in, and you look at the time, you're like, oh shoot, like 6 hours have just passed, and what have I built? Nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we spoke about earlier with, you can spend 30 hours doing something, or you can wait a month for a tool to come out is, I think very true. Okay, a couple more. Image gen.
I would say overrated still, to be honest. I think like it's actually properly rated, I think.
Oh, come on, this guy.
What, is that on the fence?
Well, you've done that for like 4 of them.
Have I? Okay, I'll stay bullish on the overrated. I think it's still not where it needs to be. Similar to VO3, I think it is great, but I think people absolutely scream and shout about it. And although we are using it in aspects of our workflow for design, it's not yet a one prompt output, run the creative, and that's why it's a tool as part of that tech stack for designing great ads, as an example, in my eyes right now.
I think it's overrated as well. I think it's like one update from being pretty great. Like, it's close, but I think it's not quite there. I also think it's because it enables a lot of people use it very heavily for iteration, right? And like I think it's often used in that process a lot, but I think even if you look at what's working on statics, a lot of it's lo-fi, a lot of it's big changes to an asset, very visually different formats, etc.
If it could replicate text, well, I'd say underrated.
Yeah, I'd say overrated in the way that most people use it, underrated in the way that it should be used. I mean, we covered a couple of examples earlier where you're like, someone writing a message on someone's foot, or like writing on someone's skin, or writing like a condensation message. Like, if you know for which brands to apply it to, not every brand it's applicable to. I mean, some products you can't even get the product labeling right at the moment, which is pretty frustrating. But when you know how to apply it, and for the right brands, those ads can crush. So I guess I have a very, unhelpful, overrated answer there. Okay, ugly ads.
Underrated.
Yeah, underrated.
I think it's a pretty easy underrated for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
And finally, because you mentioned this earlier, hit rate.
Ad
as a
hit
metric.
rate. Underrated.
He's doing that
Because
to me.
I'm doing this on purpose because I know you disagree with it.
Yeah.
I think for me, like we're now using it to reverse engineer spend based on ad hit rate, which then
Yeah.
gives us an indication of the volume we need to produce to hit those spend levels.
Probably, I think properly rated, but I think average spend per asset is probably maybe a better metric. That's absolute, because I think as your creative process as you try to build a process towards a spend volume that achieves a new customer revenue target, you need something that measures that, right? To accurately forecast resource. So I think it's got to be I think hit rate's useful, but
It's definitely not a North Star, by the
No.
way. Not a North Star
I mean,
at
I
all.
guess, yeah. I didn't have that context of that earlier when you mentioned it. Like for forecasting, I can see the use case. For like KPI in, like strategist against, which I've seen a lot of agencies and
we
brands
don't
doing.
KPI
like,
strategists
No,
against
no,
it.
as in like
Yeah.
they're saying to strategists like, oh, you need to hit 20% of your ads need to hit, or like X percent of your ads need to hit. In which case, I think it's like the stupidest metric because it disincentivizes the person who's just very efficient and can put out a lot of ads.
yeah.
But in terms of forecasting, I don't think it's as preposterous.
Yeah, no, we don't KPI strategist against that. I completely agree in that vein.
I'm bullish on tracking that or average spend per asset and incremental reach as two things that brands should obsess around way more than they do at a top level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right, guys. Well, we are at time. Thank you both for coming on today. Tell the people where they can find you, Lucas.
D2C Diaries on YouTube. So yeah, I'd say Alex, you are an absolute killer on YouTube, and what you're doing is insane. We create similar content as well. So if you like Alex's, maybe you'll like ours. So you can find us there, and then just Lucas Hamby on Twitter and LinkedIn, but you probably won't be able to find me because I'm Greek and it's spelt really weird.
Same YouTube channel, and then Ollie Hudson on LinkedIn and Twitter with a Y.
I love it. And I really highly recommend go and check out D2C Diaries. It's one of my favorite podcasts, and I listen to all the episodes. So insanely underrated if you're still playing
thanks,
the game.
man. I appreciate that.
So thank you guys
for
for
having us.
watching. Hope you found this valuable, and I will see you in the next one.